Welcome back in for another episode of the Ball Boys podcast. As always, Dylan Mehl joined by Nolan Foster here to talk NFL for y'all. If you guys missed it, we dropped our NBA Eastern Conference predictions video over the weekend. 140 views. It's going good. The clips have been doing fire on Ball Boy. Listen, I've been seeing some steady growth on even the longer videos, which you got to respect the longer videos. Let's try and get consistently up to 100, though. 80s is where we're at, somewhere around 70s to 80s. But the best bets recap, that's where we start every Tuesday show. Of course, you know that, and this is why you got to be watching the Friday show, because we're both in the green. Now, we did have two of the same bet, which we normally don't do, and we don't discuss picks beforehand. I know Nolan's before we record, just so I know to skip over certain games, but he doesn't know mine. We both had Miami, minus 12.5. The only reason that was merely a sweat was because of a 102-yard pick six from the Giants. I mean, we were correct in thinking the Giants' offense wasn't going to be able to move the ball. That was the correct train of thought. Thankfully, the bet still cashed because the process was correct, and if we had lost on some a field goal at the end or some screwy shit, and that pick six was why that would have left a sour taste in our mouth. As well, we both got Chiefs minus 3.5. Some people are saying the refs DPI. I don't know. I mean, if you let the game come down to a referee call or not call, you didn't do enough to win. That's just my opinion on the matter. Vikings moved to 1-4 on the year, and we're gonna talk about the Vikings a little bit later, but their season may be cooked.
Yeah, they're cooked.
And the Chiefs 4-1 now after losing week 1 on a 4-game win streak. They help us get some money there. Those were the two bets that we had the same. Then obviously we drifted a little bit here. Nolan, I'll go first because I had some people ask what is perfect. Can something truly be perfect? And when you look at my bets from last week, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Something can truly be perfect. As I also took the Colts plus 2.5. They won the game outright. I said Anthony Richardson, I thought he was going to be a problem for the Titans. To be fair, Zach Moss was the problem for the Titans, which puts them in the Colts in a real interesting spot. You just pay Jonathan Taylor all that money. Now Zach Moss is getting 150 yards, and it's like, maybe we didn't need to pay that guy. But I still think it's the right move in the long term for Anthony Richardson. 1 week of Zach Moss doing good doesn't change that, but it does change my bets to 3-0. Nolan, man, Monday Night Football. You had the Packers. They had an opportunity. Jordan Love, he pulled the LeBron meme when it came to interceptions. Not one, not two, but 3 interceptions for Jordan Love last night. A disaster performance. You had the Packers +1. Josh McDaniels lined it up on a silver platter for you for the Packers to win with an egregious coaching decision on 4th and 1 to kick the 52-yard field goal. It's no good. And the Packers, they just couldn't get the job done. No Aaron Jones for the fantasy managers like myself who put him in the lineup thinking, of course I'll play. Played on Thursday. It's okay. I already had 150 points without you and got the W. Aaron, rest up, King. But yeah, man, how you feeling about the Packers?
They are banned from my best bets, any parlays, anything involving anything. I had Christian Watson in one of my leagues, and I just needed 7 more points. So when that ball floated in the air to the end zone to him, I was holding my breath and didn't end well. So that was
touchdown
great.
Saving horse collar tackle, huh?
yeah. I had a rough Tuesday night, bro. It was
Monday
bad.
night.
Or Monday, yeah. It was so bad I don't even know what night it was. But
yeah, Packers,
it's
Christian
Packers,
Watson,
bro.
the Phils.
It's tough because like they have a really good defense, but their offense just isn't there. Jordan Love looks like he's not the guy. But good news,
their offense misses Aaron Jones.
Yeah, but good news is they didn't make the same mistake as the Giants did. Obviously, they couldn't because he didn't play last year, but Jordan Love only has this year to prove it. So they're probably going to move off from him after this year. So that is the good news if you're a Packers fan.
You think? I think they franchise tag him.
I
think they give him another year. I mean, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. Obviously, there's more to tell, but this was his first game with Christian Watson back. Still hasn't had Aaron Jones, so still hasn't had all of his offensive weapons out there at once. Obviously, he had a bad game on primetime Monday night, but, I feel like there was some learning curves expected. Let's see if he gets better. That's
the
my
hope.
thought on it.
It don't look good, but
It
we'll give
doesn't
them
look good,
benefit of
but
the doubt.
2-3. They're the second best team in the North. There's a world where you get them to 9-8 and in the playoffs, and if you get in, they shouldn't make the same mistake that the Giants did with Daniel Jones after a 9-8 wild card game and just give him that extension. They should franchise that and be like, let's see if he can do it again. But yeah, best bets. If you followed me, winner. If you followed Nolan, winner. We're up on the season now. Nolan is 8-7, officially past that 500 mark. I moved to 11-4. Hot start to the year. Hot start to the year for your boy.
It's all right.
We'll see if I come back down to life.
Exactly. We just got to keep pushing. It's only week 5, so we'll catch up.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about that.
Team Dylan represent. Team Dylan represent. But we got to talk about some of these NFL games, and we've been waiting on this one. We've been waiting on this one. Clip it, individual video, inbound. The Dallas Cowboys get absolutely railed, rolled, smoked, cooked, destroyed on Sunday Night Football by the San Francisco 49ers, the most watched Sunday Night Football regular season game ever. And everybody got to see the San Francisco 49ers win 42-10. George Kittle himself had double the score of the Cowboys offense in this one.
The Texas Rangers scored more points than the Cowboys.
Yeah, that is also true. From top to bottom, right? I mean, you guys see the tag. The Cowboys are frauds. And I don't use it lightly. It's not for clicks. I really feel that way. I feel we were lied to the first month of the season, and we talked about it in the preview. And I said, let's see how elite that Cowboys defense is. Because the first month of the season, it was Daniel Jones in what looks like the worst offense in football. Zach Wilson in his first start taking over. Josh Dobbs, who they lost to. And then Mac Jones, which may be the second worst offense in the NFL. And the Cowboys defense looked good. And, credit to them. You don't get to pick who you play. But it was all right. Real weapons. Now, what happens when you face a Christian McCaffrey, when you face a Deebo Samuel, when you face a George Kittle? And the answer is you get destroyed. And then the offense, right? This was the first real test where they were going to have to keep up with another offense. No scoop and score touchdowns, no pick sixes, no punt returns. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, Mike McCarthy. Time to show up. Big game. And they don't. And this is what we talked about all offseason with this team. So we talked about every week with this team. It's the Cowboys are a good team. They're a good regular season team. They'll be a playoff team. But in the big moment, against San Francisco, against Philadelphia, and now against Detroit, can they keep up? The answer has been no. And the answer has not just been no for this year. It's been 3, 4, 5 years now. And you said it. You said it last episode. You said this Cowboys team's never going to win in the McCarthy-Dak era. So, way to be vindicated. I mean, what are your thoughts on the game?
I mean, it was great. It was great watching. For me, I think the biggest takeaway for me was just how kind of not normal the Cowboys looked in the second half. Like they just totally let the game get out of hand. I was expecting at least a close game, maybe third quarter, but Dak just lost all his composure, throwing 3 picks in like a span of like 4 drives. Like it was getting bad out there. They had the whole second team Niners team in the start of the fourth quarter. Like it was a rout and a half. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is a lot of people are talking about, Trayvon Diggs, he got hurt. That's really what caused this. But the Cowboys have always been like this. Even if Diggs was out there, they would have probably lost still. They've never been serious. I've never taken them seriously. And I'm an Eagles fan, so, I'm a little biased, but it's the truth. Like every year there's so much hype around them and they always do the same exact thing. And I think it's because you have the same people there. You have Dak still there. You have McCarthy still there and Jerry Jones still there, and that whole like culture team is just the same thing. And it's always going to be like that until they're gone.
Yeah. I mean, Dak is not a top 10 quarterback. Mike McCarthy, in my opinion, not a top 20 head coach. Everybody falls back on Mike McCarthy as a Super Bowl. Mike McCarthy as a Super Bowl because at the time he had the most talented quarterback ever to play the game and a sound defense. That Packers defense that year was legit. Aaron Rodgers was at the peak of his powers, and you had better offensive weapons than you do now. And it's just, for Dallas, it's mind-boggling, really. People that are saying, oh, Trayvon Diggs was the difference, like you mentioned. Trayvon Diggs is not a 32-point difference. I hate to break it to you. If you had lost the game on a walk-off touchdown by Brandon Ayuk because Bland was on him, cool. You could tell me with Trayvon Diggs that was the difference. Dog. 42-10, that ain't one player. And the Cowboys, Jerry Jones went on his radio show and said, this was earlier before the game. He said San Francisco is the best team in the league right now. They're the Super Bowl favorites. This is a game where we see where we stack up, and if we lose, we see what we got to improve. And I kind of don't like him saying that because it already feels like you're going to lose that game when you talk like that. But at least he's realistic and has like a good sense of mind for it. After the game, Micah Parsons has his weekly podcast. If his attitude is the same as the locker rooms, that has to be the most delusional locker room ever, bro. Micah Parsons said that he didn't think that game was that far apart in terms of how close it was. You lost by 32. You lost by like 5 scores, bro. And he said that he didn't like George Kittle wearing that F Dallas shirt. And he said, I hope we see them again. We got something for them. Dog. No, you don't. If you had something for them, you would have used it, man. You don't have something for them. The Cowboys, it's like you said, it's same old, same old. For the 49ers, though, I want to give them some credit. They played better than I thought they would offensively. Brock Purdy looked damn good in that football game. And, I've been a guy that's been preaching that Brock Purdy's not that good. I may have to readjust some quarterback rankings this offseason, and I'm not saying that Brock Purdy's a top 5 guy. But, he's fringe top 10. He's better than Dak, that's for sure. And Dak's a fringe top 10 guy to most people. I obviously don't have, like, the full list right now. Obviously, he's not in any tier with Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Hurts, Herbert, Lamar. Obviously, that's, like, 6 right there. Trevor Lawrence, 7. But things start getting a little shaky when you keep going down that list, And there's not as many great quarterbacks as people think. When I say Brock Purdy might be fringe top 10, go write the list yourself. See how far away he is. But 4 touchdowns in this game, no interceptions, no mistakes, and he's the perfect fit for this 49ers offense. That's the truth of it. This 49ers offense likes to pay their weapons. Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey. You need a quarterback that's cheap. You need a quarterback that isn't, this world beater, but you need a quarterback that can run the offense, has a little mobility to him with the way that Shanahan runs the blocking schemes, and doesn't turn the ball over. And that's what Brock Purdy is. They have the best defense in the NFL. They should be at the top of everybody's power rankings at this point in the season. Obviously, the Super Bowl is not won in October. It's won in February, so we'll see where this continues. But the 49ers are a damn good football team. I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on them.
Yeah, I think with the Niners, the biggest thing, their defense is stout. It's definitely a lot better than I thought going into the season. But still, I still have doubts about that offense. You mentioned Brock Purdy, and we're both on the same page with that. But he's getting a lot of love, which is warranted, but like it's getting a little out of hand in my opinion. Like people are like, oh, comparing him to the Brady situation, like he was a 6th, 7th round pick, and he's playing great. But like, come on, like the Dallas Cowboys defense isn't that great. Obviously, we've seen that. And I want to see how he plays against the big teams. Like he hasn't played in the postseason yet, so we cannot like give him the regular season award merchant,
Well, and he's 10-0 in the regular season, so we do need to give him credit for that. 10-0 is certainly impressive, but like you mentioned, San Francisco is a team that doesn't play for regular season awards. They're a team that plays to win games. I'm interested to see on the road in Cleveland how Brock Purdy performs against that defense. That's a top 5 defense in the NFL.
If if Watson plays on Sunday, I might pick them to win the Browns. Like it's
I mean, right now
back
it's San
I'm back and
Francisco
forth.
-5.
Mm-hmm.
Then a week later, the Niners dropping to Minnesota. That's a pretty easy game. Bengals at home. That defense isn't special. The next great defense that they face is the Eagles in December. And then they face Baltimore on Christmas. That's a good defense. And they face the Commanders on the road on New Year's Eve. So throughout the year, there's about 3 really solid. Oh, and they play the Buccaneers, who they've been a really solid defense thus far. I think that the 49ers defense will get in Baker the way that the Eagles defense did, and I don't think it'll be too competitive. But Brock Purdy's got some tests in the regular season, but again, it's all about what you do come postseason, and it's really all about right now for me in the NFC, Philly and San Fran. People could say Detroit. Yeah, I mean, people could say Detroit, even TCK, the college kids. They just put out their power rankings. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
They have Dallas above Philly still. I quote tweeted and said that this is not supported by the Ball Boys podcast. Carry on. Because it's not. And people come at us on Twitter all the time because for some reason they think that our opinion must be the exact same as theirs. And
we had the Bills winning 5 games.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have the Bills winning 5 games, but last week the college kids had the Bills atop their power rankings, and somebody's like, well, what about the Ball Boys saying this? Well, it's not our power rankings right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had the Bills at 2 in my personal ones, and I also had the Bills winning that division. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day. But let's move to that AFC East, because there's a team that needs a change. And the New England Patriots desperately need a change, and they need multiple changes. 34-0 at home against the New Orleans Saints.
Mm-hmm.
The Saints are a decent team. They're decent at best. But on the road, Derek Carr still dealing with a shoulder injury. Chris Olave had an ankle injury pregame. Alvin Kamara's 1 game back from a suspension. This offense is not humming by any means. 34-0. Pick 6. Mac Jones I think he's the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. I'd still take Daniel Jones over him because Daniel Jones is mobile.
For sure.
I'd take Josh Dobbs over him. Josh Dobbs
Probably.
has won games. I'm trying to think who else falls in that tier. Bryce Young. I would take Bryce Young over him because at least there's some development that could be coming. Mac Jones is bad. Mac Jones needs to be out, and he will be. This is his last year as the Patriots starter, without a doubt. I'm not sure he makes it through the year.
No shot.
I think Kyler Murray potentially could be traded there this offseason, depending on where the Cardinal season shakes out and what their picks look like. That would be good. This is going to sound nuts, and we're going to talk about this team later. Tell me you don't see the Patriots trading for Russell Wilson if the opportunity arises, and Bill Belichick making a terrible move as a GM again.
I could
see it. I mean, he's better than Mac Jones, right?
Yeah.
Bill Belichick could get on his ego and say, I just need a little better than
Yeah, like Russ isn't having a bad year too, so it's possible.
And listen, Russ's 5-year extension is about to kick in. The Broncos, Sean Payton's going to win that battle. We'll get to them in a second. Bill Belichick, though, in my opinion, needs to be relieved of all GMing duties. I don't think he's a bad coach. He's got his boys ready on game day. The defense, they're struggling right now with Matt Judon and Christian Gonzalez out. They're 2 best defensive players. That blows. It's tough to blame Bill for that, but the defense is on the field so much because Mac Jones can't sustain a drive. Ramondre Stevenson, I don't think he's that good, to be honest. I didn't think he was that good last year. I thought he was a volume munch. And now Ezekiel Elliott is close to outsnapping him. This team doesn't have a true wide receiver 1, and I don't think that this team has a wide receiver 2 on a really good team. Maybe not even a wide receiver 3. I mean, seriously, like, who's their best receiver? Kendrick Bourne? Like, he's not cracking the Eagles lineup. He's not getting on the field for Cincinnati.
They could have still had Jacoby Myers, but
and Jacoby Myers is he's thanking the Lord he's out of that situation. He's like, thank you for getting me to the Raiders. And imagine being thankful to be on the Raiders, man.
Yeah, that's how I know it's bad.
That's how you know it's really, really bad in New England. I I don't know if Belichick's going to give up GMing duties. If you're Robert Kraft, at what point do you cut the string loose and fire Belichick? Is it after this year if he's not willing to give up GMing duties? Do you just fire him as a whole?
I think it depends on what their record is and what their situation is next year. Like if they could get a franchise quarterback, it is very possible they could be in the Caleb sweepstakes.
Yeah, Mac
They
Jones is the
they
path.
they
Keep
could
starting
really
them.
like honestly, like if you think about it, like there's a lot of teams that we thought would be like really bad, and they're winning some games. So in the Pats, I don't see a realistic way for them to really win some games. They're in a tough division, tough conference, tough schedule. So I don't know. It's just for me. I mentioned this I think last week or the week before, and I was like, Bill Belichick always does a sound defense. Like that's not the problem. The problem is his offense is so like early 2000s. He has no weapons, no dynamic players on that offense, and it's an offensive league. And I think that's where he's behind. And he gets a lot of credit, for the Brady years and all that, and it's obviously warranted. But nowadays, like you need to improve, and he hasn't done that for the last couple of years.
No, and Julian Edelman was on the Herd yesterday talking about it, and he kind of hinted at the same thing. He said that Belichick has not been good at drafting offensive skill position players. He said that like in that locker room, they would see guys come in and be like, "That's not a first round talent," and I just think it showed that in the Brady Belichick debate, it wasn't 50-50. I'm not saying Belichick didn't do his part. He certainly did, but it wasn't 50-50. That was more Brady than Belichick, that's for sure.
TB12.
I mean, and the Patriots, it's them as an organization. Because Brady left how many years ago now? 5, 6? Still haven't recovered.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers lost Brady this past offseason. They're in first place in their division.
Yeah.
Like, it's an organizational error. And Bill Belichick is not a good GM. Bill Belichick will make it work with whoever you get on that defense. Go hire a real GM and let him get some offensive pieces. Paying Juju Smith-Schuster was a stupid move when it happened. We all knew it. That's the problem. Everybody knows it but Bill Belichick. And I don't know how. Like, I'm not saying I'm qualified to be an NFL GM by any means. But if people like me and you who just bought microphones and can get up on YouTube know offensive personnel better than your NFL GM who makes millions of dollars doing it, that's a problem. And it's been a problem for years. The Patriots are not going to get out of this hole that they dug themselves into until there's a new GM. And if that has to come at the expense of firing Bill Belichick before he hits Don Shula's record, that sucks, but another team will hire him. He's not going to not be on a team. He's still a top 32 head coach in football. And there's always 7 or 8 coaching vacancies after every season. There'll be more this year. Bill Belichick to the Cowboys confirmed for next year. And just book it.
Chill out.
Listen, Bill Belichick to the Chargers. I don't know. Yeah. We can debate that in the offseason for sure. But another team that needs a change, and we talked about them, Broncos country. Let's ride. They lost to the Jets. Anybody who thought their win over the Bears was a turn of a new leaf, just the kick that they needed, that's not it. I saw this meme that it was said Broncos country, let's ride, and then it said the ride, and it was the picture of that submarine. Let's ride. Basically, it is a sinking ship in Denver. Russ isn't bad, but he's not good enough anymore to fix a team. And they are about to be paying him like he is. And that's where the real problem comes in. You can't pay a guy that doesn't play at that elite quarterback 1 level that isn't that guy. Because when you look at the Chiefs, they're wide receivers. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, nobody special. But Patrick Mahomes is special enough that they'll win games. The Broncos, they have way better receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, but Russell Wilson is just not good enough offensively for this team to win games. You got Jaleel McLaughlin out of nowhere being the best offensive player on the team. in terms of production. The O-line, it's not good. I'm not going to lie. Russell Wilson doesn't have a ton of time. Russell Wilson never had a ton of time in Seattle, but Pete Carroll figured it out because of an elite defense. Sean Payton doesn't know defense. He wasn't expected to know defense. Yeah, man, it is a rough go if you're a Denver Broncos fan. And maybe they're going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. You know, we talk about that extension, but there's always a way out. There's a team that'll be stupid enough. Maybe it's the Patriots. Maybe it's the Falcons. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's some other team. Somebody will take Russ. You'll have to give up draft capital to get them to take Russ. But if you got Caleb Williams, Penix, Drake May, Shador Sanders, I think it's worth it. And the Broncos are a team that I wanted to see do good. I didn't expect them to, but they're a team that I wanted to prove me wrong. But, man, their season's over, huh?
They are cooked. They are shredded. Whatever you want to say, that's it. And, I mean, it's tough because they have a lot of weapons. Like, it's crazy to really, like, think about it because, you have Judy, Sutton. They just drafted Mims, Javonte Williams. Like, they have a decent team, and their defense, they have studs too. And it's crazy because it's like, how are they this bad? And I think Russ is playing better than a lot of people give him credit for. And I think, honestly, it might be just coaching because that defense is just absolutely horrendous. And
I think did they bring in Fangio to run the defense? Is that who it is?
I thought Fangio was on the Dolphins. I could be wrong, though.
I don't know I remember their D coordinator, they hired a former head coach. Let me look it up, and you can keep going.
Yeah, but it's crazy because they're producing numbers. Their offense isn't bad, but it just isn't making sense. And I don't know the right answer for this team. Obviously you could say, oh, like they need a new quarterback, but that defense is still going to be the same. And it's going to take a long process to really get that team back to where it's supposed to be. And I don't know if honestly Sean Payton is the right guy either. He's used to having high-powered teams and offenses and a quarterback. I'm not sure if he's ready to rebuild like that, especially at his age. So, yeah. And he's in a tough division. AFC West is not going anywhere. So, I don't know what the answer is. And so good luck to Denver because they're going to need, hopefully you just focus on the Nuggets because that's what's going to need to happen for the next couple of years.
Yeah. So Vance Joseph, that's the D coordinator. I knew it was something with a V. But yeah, like you said, those Saints teams that succeeded, Dennis Allen maybe deserves more credit. He's got a good defense this year, again, in New Orleans. And the Denver Broncos, maybe it wasn't Nat Hackett, man. Maybe it wasn't Nat Hackett. We all thought it was Nat Hackett. It looks like it's more Russ. That defense, they were good last year. They suck this year. Defenses fluctuate year to year, but this is ridiculous. I don't know. Is Jerry Jeudy a true wide receiver one in football? Yeah, he hasn't looked like it. Everybody that has come out of Alabama says that he is uber talented, though. Devonta Smith, Julio Jones, like they all love him and say that he is a top 5 Alabama wide receiver of all time. I'm waiting. We're all waiting. This team should be in on a quarterback in the draft, despite Russell Wilson's contract. You find a way. You find a way to move it. But we have some bad news. I mean, normally we record these early in the morning. I'm recording right now. It's 11:30 scheduling. But listen, there has been some real bad injury news. The NFL season's in full swing. That's what we know. Of course, we got to start with Justin Jefferson, Vikings wide receiver. Hamstring injury to the IR. That is a significant strain on that hamstring. And, I don't want to speculate, man. But now you're 1-4. Justin Jefferson's out at least until week 10. This team wins maybe 1 game while he's out. So 2-7, and that's if it's only 4 weeks. Could hit. I mean, this feels very Cooper Kupp last year to me, where he rests until he's healthy, and once he's healthy, the season's over, and he just sits. And for our fantasy viewers, I'm not telling you that you should go trade Justin Jefferson, because that's that's a tough thing to do. But if you have him, I'm worried. I'm about a 9 out of 10 on the worried scale. A hamstring injury that sends you to the IR on Tuesday. He didn't even try practicing through it. They saw it and said IR. And I think we may have seen Kirk Cousins' last game with Justin Jefferson, whether Justin Jefferson doesn't come back or the Vikings might trade Kirk Cousins, man. I don't think the Jets are in on him at this point. I think the Falcons should be in on him, but Desmond Ridder had a good game against Houston. Do without what you will. But Kirk can get you some value for sure. There's teams with quarterback injuries. There's teams that will suffer more quarterback injuries. He's on an expiring deal. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head teams that could use a Kirk Cousins right now. The Jets come to mind, but they seem to be rolling with Zach Wilson, which I respect. He's played decent back-to-back games. Pittsburgh won with Kenny Pickett, so I don't think that they're going to move off of him, and he's still young. If the Raiders get another injury to Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe they're in the market. But I really think Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons makes a lot of sense for this year, man. I really do. I think they're a team that maybe extends them, but the Viking season's over. That's the truth of this Justin Jefferson injury. The Viking season is over, and you're the fantasy guy on the show that you tweet about it all the time. What would you be doing if you were a Justin Jefferson manager? Would you be trying to sell him high?
I'd be shitting my pants. So for me, I'm on the same boat. I think, and a point that you didn't bring up is, that contract. What is the reason for Justin Jefferson to play for them if, he has a contract on the way? I think it's very possible, like you said.
And he's getting the contract. He could sit the rest of the season. He's getting that max contract.
Exactly. So why is he gonna, come out there with his hamstring injury? And I think it's very possible that's his last game for the year. And Kirk Cousins wise, the Jets, the Falcons, but I think he'll stay there. I don't think there's a team that, unless there's a huge injury to a quarterback. Other than that,
here's the thing: I don't think Jefferson wants him there next year. I think because all the reports came out that Justin Jefferson did not sign that extension because he was unsure of the Vikings quarterback situation. Meaning, I don't want Kirk Cousins to be my quarterback, because if he was sure of it, he'd tell them to extend him.
Yeah, but I think too,
he clearly doesn't want him.
Yeah, but I think too, he doesn't know with next year and if Cousins will be there or not. So I think he's just being precautionary, which is super smart.
Yeah.
So we'll see with that, but it's tough because I actually last week before the week started, I sent an offer. It was Jamar Chase and I think Jake Ferguson for Jefferson. And Chase was having an off year so far, and it got declined. So thanking my lucky stars that that happened. But it's crazy because fantasy, like, it's an awesome experience, but sometimes it sucks. It's real life. Yeah. There's real people that have injuries.
I had that same thing happen.
It's nothing you can do about it.
With Nick Chubb, I sent out an offer for Nick Chubb the day of that game. Got declined. I offered Alvin Kamara, Jahan Dotson, and Kenny Gainwell for Nick Chubb, and it got declined. And obviously we are wishing all these players the best. And if you're not somebody who could separate fantasy from real life and understand that there's a conversation to be had about fantasy football, that doesn't mean that we don't care about these players, then click off. I don't know what to tell you, because obviously the most important thing is Justin Jefferson's health. This isn't a career-threatening injury like the Nick Chubb one that I just mentioned. But it could be a season-threatening one. And the Vikings already had a bad season. Jordan Addison for the rest of the year. He should be pretty good. He'll slide into that wide receiver 1 role. KJ Osborne might be a guy that you can play in the flex. And TJ Hawkinson probably takes the biggest bump because he'll be now the number 1 target. Another injury that I know this one hurts your soul because this is your boy. Devon A-Chain Achin. I don't know which one. I think it's Achin. He might be headed to the IR. He's got a knee injury. The Dolphins didn't send him right to the IR, so a little better looking than Jefferson's, obviously. But this guy has been Chris Johnson reincarnated over the last 3 weeks, and you hate to see it. I got him in a couple leagues. Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson coming back. That's a guy you should look at on the waivers tonight. But that sucks, man. He has been electric. And if he kept up the season he was having, he would have entered Rookie of the Year conversations. Absolutely. Your reaction to Devon Achin's injury.
It sucks because it just came out of nowhere yesterday. I saw the report from McDaniel, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what happened? And it's crazy. No, there's no reports about it after the game. There was absolutely nothing. It was totally out of the blue, which is insane for like this day and age, because every reporter, there's social media. So good news is it's not season ending, which is, great to hear. Hopefully he could stay off the IR. Because it's the thing that I'm thinking is, if he gets on IR, you're going to have Jeff Wilson getting in there and getting some reps. And by the time that he gets, HN gets back, who knows how many snaps he's getting. So hopefully he could, maybe 1 week would be the best news, possibly 2. And after that, he's back in shape, so, and it sucks too, because that game was out of hand, I think got hit in the fourth quarter. So, or late third.
Here's what I'll say.
It's tough.
This is one of those real life football versus NFL versus fantasy football things. And I guarantee you the Dolphins are going to be cautious. The Dolphins are 4-1 on the season? 4-1, leading that division, looking to host the AFC playoffs, obviously, but they're looking to have their explosive weapons out there come playoff time. They are not going to rush Devon Achin back in October. This is going to be something that they are precautionary with. They have Raheem Mostert. They have Jeff Wilson. They have quality guys behind him. And they still have a dynamic offense with Waddle and Hill. And listen, Achin had a real tough matchup, not this upcoming week, but the week after against Philly. That I don't think you would have wanted to play him in anyways. I don't think he's breaking off a big one against that run defense. They've been stout all year. I don't know who Miami plays this week off the top of my head. I don't know if
Carolina.
That would have been a good matchup. But
yeah.
Listen, it sucks. Injuries are part of the game, but they're going to be cautious with them. And then news broke right before we started recording. James Conner for the Cardinals. That team's been very surprisingly good. He's expected to miss multiple weeks. He could go to the IR. Keontae Ingram dealing with a neck injury. The guy that you want for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, get it right.
If I got to look him up on my phone, that he is really out of nowhere. It's DeMarcado, Amari DeMarcado, rookie that they drafted, 24 years old. He got the bulk of the work. That's what I'll say. That's who you want. I don't know if you really want him, but if you're like me and you have Aaron Jones and you had Zach Moss, it's probably worth a pickup. But yeah, for the Cardinals, that sucks. James Conner's been off to a really good year, and he's been part of that offense that's surprised some people. But to close out the show here, let's do a Thursday Night Football preview. Going into the season, this one looked like a good game. I'll give, last week's Bears-Commanders, we all knew that was I would have told you that was a bad game from the start. Week 5, I won't shit on the schedule makers for this one. The Denver Broncos travel, play Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, man, what's the spread?
Not enough.
Probably not, man. If it's anything under a touchdown. Here's what I'll say. The Broncos Chiefs games have been close over the past couple of years. So we've seen that the Chiefs kind of do play down the competition. So that's something. The spread's Kansas City minus 10.5. That's tough, man. Just because it's divisional, Thursday night, short week, I kind of like the Broncos to cover.
We saw with the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. Divisional games are no joke.
I kind of like Broncos to cover, man. I kind of like Broncos to cover. I won't bet it. I can't bring myself to bet them to cover. But if I had to, I'd probably take Broncos plus 10.5. Kansas City defense, they'll have a good week. Kansas City offense, they'll have a good week.
Pacheco,
yeah, he'll get some garbage time work for sure. Maybe the Chiefs get up for this game and say, hey, we could put 70 on them too. I don't know. Yeah, over under 5.5 Taylor Swift showings. I don't know if she'll
probably
if she's there, over. If not, over.
I'm gonna say over because it's Amazon Prime's game. They're not
Yeah.
gonna have her again.
I bet they want her.
Full-fledged.
I bet Prime pays her to go.
You're
not gonna see that check, but I bet Amazon Prime pays Taylor Swift to show up to that game.
So the Sunday Night Football game, she showed up 17 times because that's like the bridge
That's
we
the
got.
barometer. And if it's Amazon Prime, man, that over-under's got to be set at what, 16.5 if she's there. But yeah, it's a mismatch, obviously. Short week though, divisional game, so I kind of like the under. I kind of like the Broncos plus 10.5. Like you said, I like Pacheco anytime touchdown. I think he's probably a lock for that. He's been really solid over the last 2 weeks, especially. But overall, it's not a game that I'm like, yes, gotta tune in, gotta be there. As a guy who has Kansas City's defense in his main fantasy league, I won't be picking up a new one. Let's cook, baby. Let's cook, Russ.
Let's ride.
But let's get some score predictions here. I'll take Kansas City to win the game 21-16.
I'm going to take KC 38-17.
So for you, they cover. Offense has a good night. All right. Well, make sure you drop all your thoughts on this week's NFL action in the comment section. As always, give the College Kids a follow on Twitter. They're handing you winners throughout the MLB playoffs right now, winners throughout the football season, NBA season right around the corner. They gave you Nuggets at 21-1 to win the title last year. So stay locked in for their NBA future because they got you last year. And don't tell me you thought the Nuggets were going to win. You didn't. Nobody did, unless you're from Denver. And if you're from Denver, you probably clicked off when you heard us talking about the Broncos and Chiefs. So don't say you saw it coming. We got plenty more content coming your way this Friday. Another NFL Week 6 preview, best bets, Western Conference preview for the NBA coming out Saturday. So ball boys are dropping. We are dropping videos just about daily if you count the clips, but 3 new videos a week if you watch these long ones. Make sure you give us a follow on socials. Everything will be linked in the description. Until next time, peace.
Deuces.